show. Ironic cause the Iceman was a nice man, now I'm hot and cold.
Let's talk about it. So, Mr. Aubrey Graham, the GOAT himself, Mr. Aubrey Graham has dropped 3 albums at the same time. That's crazy. Iceman, Habibti, they don't really care if I'm saying that wrong, by the way, and Maid of Honor. 43 songs, brother. And they're all 3 different aesthetics, 3 different sounds, and one massive rollout, and somehow all 3 of them happen to be garbage. No offense to Drake. I'm not even here to shit on the album, okay? And instead of feeling like the most legendary moment in music history, most of the internet responded with the same thing. This guy's still whining about Kendrick after 3 years. And I get a lot of people are in here going to be like, well, the media pushed it so hard. I don't know, bro. Get over it. You're a billionaire. You know what I mean? And because of that, this has become the biggest problem with Drake's music lately. No matter what genre he tries, no matter what aesthetic he goes for, everything somehow loops back to betrayal, fake friends, people switching up on Drake, and loyalty. And that's why these albums have become so divisive online almost immediately. Some people think Drake just proved that he's the GOAT. He's better than MJ. MJ could never top what Drake has just did, man. Like, come on. And other people think this was just 43 songs of coping. And honestly, both are wrong. It's probably like 20 songs of coping, you know what I mean? The rest of these are just club songs. And that split reaction is exactly what Drake's career has become post Kendrick beef. Every release now feels less like here's the new Drake era and more like here's Drake responding to the internet again. And today I want to talk about that. Why these albums aren't connecting with a lot of people, how the Kendrick Lamar beef changed the way audiences hear Drake, the memes surrounding the rollout and release, Drake dissing basically everybody on the entire planet Earth, the civil war happening inside rap fan bases, and the theory that these albums were just made to fulfill his label obligations. Because this might genuinely be the strangest era of Drake's entire career, which is saying something because he's a pretty strange guy. And this isn't because he has fell off commercially. He's still probably the hugest rapper of the decade, in my opinion. I don't think that'll ever change, no matter how many trash albums he pushes out of his ass. So, you know, shout out to him. But because for the first time ever, Drake feels vulnerable in a way that isn't helping the music anymore. So let's talk about it. Iceman, I am Iceman, I am Iceman, I am Iceman. One thing Aubrey is still good at doing is making an event for his albums. Even people that hate Drake will pay attention to when he drops, and the rollout for these albums happen to be everywhere on my phone and on my computer. They were on cryptic live streams, giant ice sculptures in Toronto, teaser trailers, hidden messages, fake leaked track lists, fan theories, people decoding titles, rumors about Kendrick making a response album, and rumors about surprise features. That's all fine and dandy, yada yada yada, you know, the normal stuff. The internet basically turned the rollout into a scavenger hunt before the music even released, and Drake himself understands internet culture better than almost any rapper ever, honestly. He knows how to dominate timelines, he knows how to create anticipation, and he knows how to make people talk, which is always a huge skill to have as an artist in general. But the problem is, the rollout felt more exciting than that album itself. Because when people finally sat down and listened to these 43 gorgeous, Oscar-worthy songs, right? A lot of the reactions online were basically, is this it? Not because every song was terrible. Of course, there are good songs across all 3 projects. Mainly just Iceman. I like Shebang, Too Hard for the Radio, and I did respect the experimental side of the last 2 albums. He tried to experiment with pop rock. I thought that was kind of cool until I heard his voice, and I was like, okay, you know, nah. And instead, people expected some huge artistic reinvention after the Kendrick situation. Instead, they got another giant Drake release full of moody singing, terrible Dr. Seuss bars, passive-aggressive disses, loyalty talk, relationship drama, still talking about high school relationships, and more songs about betrayal. And after a while, people started saying these projects feel less like albums and more like an emotional journal entries from somebody trying to survive public embarrassment. That's harsh, dude. But that's genuinely how people are reacting to this era of Drake. So, which leads into this next section. Now, let me be fair. Let me not play both sides of the fence, you know? Although my favorite artist is J. Cole, I can't do the J. Cole. I can't do what he does, you know? I'm not the middle guy type, right? There are standout moments across these 3 albums. If you think I'm lying, go ahead and listen to them. I dare you. There are songs where Drake still sounds pretty sharp, still charismatic, still emotionally effective. And that's why this conversation is interesting, to say the least, because the issue isn't Drake forgot how to make music. The issue is that people feel like he keeps revisiting the same exact emotional themes over and over and over again. And once you notice it, you genuinely cannot unhear it. Every song feels like people switched up on me. My friends, they betrayed me. I hate those guys. These women in the past, they did me wrong, man. I'm hurt. The industry turned fake. They want to see me fail, and I'm still the greatest. And Drake has always talked about these things. This is not new. The difference is that older Drake balanced those emotions with ambition, hunger, confidence, excitement, and evolution. Now it feels like he's emotionally stuck in one place, like he's some 6-year-old kid who doesn't want to get out of bed for school, especially after the Kendrick beef, because now every emotional Drake lyric gets filtered through that certain situation. Before Drake, people heard vulnerability. After Drake, people hear damage control. That completely changes how the music feels emotionally. Now when Drake spends an entire song talking about loyalty or betrayal, the audience immediately thinks, this guy's still crying about Kendrick, even if he technically isn't. And because Drake releases so much music now, people hear these themes constantly. So instead of Drake is emotionally honest, the narrative becomes Drake is whining again. And once the internet creates a narrative around an artist, it becomes almost impossible to escape it, especially when every album seems to reinforce it. I'll try not to linger on this topic for too long. I talked about it in the J. Cole vid, and I don't want to keep talking about this beef. This beef is 4 years ago, bruh. This is probably the biggest thing people can't ignore. The Kendrick Lamar beef permanently changed Drake's image, and I don't mean that financially, and I somewhat don't mean that commercially. Drake is still one of the biggest artists alive, but culturally, something shifted. Before the Kendrick battle, Drake felt like an untouchable rapper. He was going on feature runs, he had 2 pretty good albums, and even when people joked about him, he still felt above everybody. He was that guy that always won. Then Kendrick dropped Euphoria, Meet the Grams, and especially Not Like Us. I'm tired of hearing that song. I'm tired of hearing the instrumental. Just dead it, just throw it away. And suddenly, Drake became the punchline of the entire internet. The issue wasn't just the diss track themselves, it was everything surrounding them. The memes, TikToks, the allegations, celebrities choosing sides, club blasting Not Like Us, reaction videos, the internet turning the beef into a cultural event. And at one point, it genuinely stopped feeling like a rap battle and started feeling like public humiliation happening in real time. Now every Drake release exists under the shadow of that moment. That's why these albums don't feel like fresh eras for Drake. They feel like aftermath of him trying to pick the blocks back up. Even when Drake tries to move on stylistically, the audience keeps dragging the conversation back to Kendrick. And honestly, part of that is Drake's own fault, because he keeps referencing betrayal, fake love, enemies, and loyalty so much that listeners naturally connected back to the beef. So instead of the album standing on their own, they feel tied to a loss Drake can't emotionally move past. And that's probably the biggest reason people feel exhausted by this era of Drake's music. Another reason people are getting tired of this era is because Drake spends so much time throwing shots at people. And it's not just at Kendrick. He's thrown shots at J. Cole, LeBron, A$AP Rocky, Rihanna, Khaled, Rick Ross, Jay-Z, Pharrell, and plenty more. And to his credit, Drake isn't the only dude throwing shots at each other. You know, this whole year or two has been just straight disses of like just rap beef. I don't really understand it. Like, I get you want to prove yourself, sure, but like, just make good music, you know what I mean? And at first it sounds entertaining because rap beef is fun when it feels competitive, but eventually it starts feeling bitter, especially because some of these relationships go back years. Like LeBron, for example. People were shocked seeing tension there because Drake and LeBron were viewed as almost inseparable publicly for a pretty long time. And now the internet narrative around Drake has become, this dude thinks everybody's out to get him. Everybody's trying to drag his name in the mud. Whether that's fair or not, that perception affects how the audience hears the music, because when every album contains sneak disses, passive aggressive bars, shots at former friends, and bitterness towards the industry, listeners start feeling emotionally drained by it. It stops feeling cool and it starts feeling exhausting. Another issue is that Drake rarely sounds fully direct anymore. A lot of these disses feel vague enough that fans have to decode them afterwards. If you're gonna diss somebody, just say it, bro. That's like me making a rap about my best friend. I'm like, he not that ugly, but you know, hate looking at him, instead of just saying, bro, that guy's just ugly. So the music becomes less about the songs and more about internet detective work. Who's he talking about? Who's he referencing? Which beef is this line connected to? And eventually the drama overshadows the art itself. This might be Aubrey's biggest issue right now. The memes are stronger than his music. The second these albums dropped, the internet immediately turned everything into jokes. You had people saying 43 songs of whining. You had the TikToks about him saying Iceman not a nice man no more. The girls in Atlanta, they call him Santa. The boy versus everybody. And the craziest part is, a lot of these people discussing the album online weren't even talking about the music. They were talking about the reactions, the memes, agendas, fan wars, and Twitter discourse. That's dangerous for any artist, because once audiences stop engaging emotionally with your music becomes content instead of art. And Drake has become one of the biggest internet characters in music. People meme his accent, his selfies, his captions, his past, his gambling streams, his dance songs, his sneak disses, everything this man does, it's just a meme. So now every release feels less like a major musical moment and more like the next season of Drake's discourse. That constant visibility has damaged some of the mystique he used to have. Other and older Drake songs or older Drake eras felt larger than life. Current Drake feels permanently online, and overexposure can quietly destroy an artist's aura without affecting their numbers at all. A lot of rap fans now, especially with Drake fans, are basically split into two camps right now. You got camp one, where people say they just want Drake to fail. These fans argue that Drake is overhated. People dismiss his music before listening. Kendrick fans dominate online narratives, and Drake is judged harsher than any other rapper. And honestly, they aren't completely wrong. You could see people calling the album trash before it even dropped. There are definitely people online that want Drake to fail because he's been on top for so long, but then there's the other side. You got camp 2. Man, I hate Drake. Man, I want this guy to die. That camp, right? These fans think his music is so repetitive. The albums are bloated. Drake's themes are the same across every album. Drake sounds emotionally stagnant, and he's relying on quantity over quality. And honestly, they aren't completely wrong either, because even some of Drake fans admitted these projects could have been shortened significantly. That's why this era feels so weird for Drake, because he's simultaneously overhated and creatively repetitive. Both things can be true at once. That's why every Drake release instantly becomes chaos. Not discussion, not critique, just chaos. People don't even debate the music anymore. They debate what Drake represents: success, overexposure, victimhood, dominance, ego, decline. Everything around Drake now feels bigger than the songs themselves. Now we gotta talk about this theory surrounding these albums. Whether it's true or not, I haven't gone to do the proper research. I'm just going off of what I've seen and what I've heard just when doing this video. Because a lot of people believe Drake dropped these 3 projects for one reason: to get out of his deal, which supports the theory that, oh, that's why they're so bad. He just wants to leave his label. This theory exploded after the legal tension involving UMG and everything surrounding the Kendrick situation. Then suddenly Drake drops 43 songs, 3 albums, multiple aesthetic, multiple sounds, tons of filler, and non-stop content. And fans immediately started saying, this feels like contract fulfillment. Because these albums don't feel carefully restrained, they feel overloaded. Like Drake is trying to release as much as possible now than he ever has. And is there actual proof? Not really. And I say that because I haven't done too much research. It could be proof. I don't really care. I'm not the research guy, I'm the guy in the chair, but I'm not the guy in the chair. But the theory got traction because people genuinely cannot understand why Drake keeps releasing music at this pace, especially when critics keep saying the albums would improve if he just edited them down. And honestly, that conspiracy kind of makes sense, I guess, emotionally, because these albums feel less like, here's my best work, and more like, here's everything, take it, man, I don't want it no more. And that approach creates burnout, not just for audiences, but for Drake himself. Because instead of creating anticipation, constant releases start making the music feel disposable. So I guess this is the core issue underneath all of this. Old Drake felt hungry. Even when he was emotional, there was ambition behind it. There was focus, there was purpose, there was evolution. And to his credit, he doesn't need to be hungry anymore. He's made it to like the top, the peak of artistry as a rapper, I guess. And I guess that's always been a thing with rappers. Once they make it, they don't sound hungry anymore because they don't need to be hungry unless they're trying to be hungry passionately for their genre, right? But now he sounds tired, paranoid, defensive, emotionally stuck, and obsessed with his perception. Like he's constantly reacting to public opinion in real time, and ironically, the more he responds to the narratives, the worse those narratives will always become, because now audiences listen to Drake expecting Kendrick disses, victim bars, sneak disses towards celebrities, bitterness, and insecurity. And when that becomes the expectation, it's incredibly hard for the music to feel fresh anymore, especially after dropping 3 whole albums with 43 fucking songs. At some point, listeners stop asking, is this good? And start asking, why is he still trying to prove himself? And honestly, that's probably the saddest part of this entire era, because Drake already accomplished everything he needed to do. But these albums sound like somebody's still trying to convince the world he hasn't lost. And at the end of the day, these albums probably won't destroy Drake's career, financially at least. This guy's set for generations. He's still Drake. He's still gonna stream insane numbers. He's still one of the biggest artists on earth. But culturally, something shifted after Kendrick. And I hate to say this because I hate bringing the beef back up, but literally it's hard to ignore when talking about Drake. And these albums have proved it, because instead of feeling like a confident victory lap, Iceman, Habibti, and Maid of Honor feel like one of the most giant emotional responses to public embarrassment. Some people hear an artist fighting back, and others hear somebody unable to move on. And honestly, that tension will probably stay with Drake's career from this point forward unless he changes. As I'm making this video, it's been 6 days since I've made another video. That's not a crazy gap. I'm trying to keep the release 1 week at a time, right? I don't know why I just did that. But I will probably be dropping a video right after this one, depending on how well this script has gone when I release this video. So you might get 2 back-to-back videos, I'm not just the movie guy. I could talk about music. I can be hip with the the youngins, you know. But yeah, you know, you may get a video back to back, or you may get it the day after. You know, it's been a while. I haven't had too many ideas coming in my head, but you know, the Drake album was something fun to talk about. Love you guys. God bless. And I will see you in the next one.